This episode of the CUInsight Experience is brought to you by Allied Solutions. With over 40 years of experience, our friends at Allied Solutions are focused on helping more than 4,000 clients grow their bottom line, protect their business and members, and evolve to stay ahead of the competition. Welcome to episode 134 of the show. I'm Randy Smith, one of the co-founders of CUInsight.com, and I'm excited everyone's here today. This show is all about taking a deep dive with the leaders of the credit union movement, and sometimes, like today, with folks from outside the movement as well. But it's the thought leadership that can help us all grow and makes this movement of ours so great. I'm having a conversation today with Lucas Tindell. Lucas is an author, speaker, trainer, and a business and life coach. He's also the keynote speaker for our next Mini-Con event. So let's jump right into it. Lucas, welcome to the show.
Randy, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be on the podcast today. I'm excited about Mini-Con. I'm excited about the movement. I'm not in the movement, but I'm a part of the movement because I'm also a client of credit unions, as well as somebody who's come into my business accounts and everything. I went from, regular banking into credit unions. I really believe in what you guys do. So I'm excited.
I will tell you, the listeners will love to hear that. A lot of the times that tends to be the first question, like, are you a credit union member?
Yes.
Because we all think everyone should be. So we appreciate hearing that. And thank you again, sir, for being here today. We're excited about Mini-Con, but as you and I were talking before we hit record, I'd like to tell everybody, listening today is not a reason not to go to Mini-Con, because my scattered mind is going to go all over the place with you. Because, when I was doing homework, I was so excited to have this conversation on so many different levels. I will do my best to make it cohesive, but we will see how that ends up. So I'd love to start with like a little bit about your story. Where'd the career start? How did it lead you to where you are today?
Yeah. So my story started, I'm from Canton, Ohio, the Pro Football Hall of Fame city. Just miles south of where LeBron James grew up as well. So we have more things to make us relevant. People know where we're at on the map now. So I went to the great Canton McKinley High School, and, growing up where professional football was born is a fun place to be. And it's a small town, but we have a lot of rich history. So I've always loved being from here. I started my career actually working in the community, working in early childhood. So at 16 years old, I went and got a job at the early childhood center down the road. I was, doing summer camp with the kids, and it was so much fun. Throwing the football around, playing checkers all day, basketball, taking them swimming, doing all the things we did was just a great summer job, right? And I loved it. But then I quickly started to shift kind of my perspective on the role I was playing. I went from realizing that I was there having a good time, getting paid to have fun, to these children in this community needed more of me and more from me. So I just really started giving a lot to the children. I started teaching them a lot, which allowed me to get into supervising and then administration, and then I became an executive director. So my career really started in the community, much like a credit union, serving the people of the community that I grew up in.
Now, how'd you make the transition over to what you're doing now, writing books and speaking all over the place and coaching from what I found out about you? So
it's been a lot of fun. It was an interesting journey. So when I got out of that, and I did that for 15 plus years, we opened facilities. We had facilities in Canton and Akron, Ohio as well. And I was so embedded in those communities and with those families, and all of building leadership teams to manage all the dynamic things that go on in a facility like that. Families can't go to work if they don't have somewhere for their children to go. And so I took it very seriously, building something in the community. So after that, though, I went into consulting, which was interesting because I didn't know if they would believe that I had real business experience. Because people could say, well, you just watch children. I mean, that's not a business, right? You didn't do business. Anybody can do that. We had 200 kids a day. I was running a school, right? So I was an executive, an administrator in something much bigger. So I had experience. I also had my background. My education was in organizational management and marketing. I had done so much. So I went and worked for another great company, and I got to do leadership consulting. And we did dynamic things like role plays, and we put leaders through these dynamic simulation experiences where you really see Not that you understand leadership on paper, but that you have to handle difficult situations. And we would record them like a football team where you watch your film back. And we would say, do you see how you acted in this moment under stress when I was playing a difficult employee in a role play and you actually got upset and almost fired me without even hearing what really happened? So it was a phenomenal job. So that started my transition, into doing some other things.
That's pretty cool. I have to say this before I go on. You said you were from Ohio. I'm from Michigan, so the idea that I almost, just didn't cut off this podcast. No,
it's over.
You'll appreciate this story. Our associate publisher, Robbie, is from Ohio, also from around the Cleveland area. And one day years ago, she was trying to get me in better shape, and we were at the gym over lunch. And we walk out of our respective locker rooms, and you're looking in the mirror, and she has a shirt on that says, Cleveland, at least we're not Detroit. And I was like, So,
I love it.
Anyways, so she's going to appreciate greatly that you're on the show. So just my location there. So, hey, so one of the things that, like I said, getting off course sometimes, I do that. One of the things I was reading in your bio that just kept jumping out at me, and I kept coming back to it. So I'm kind of going to put you on the spot here, but you had a line that said you help, and it sounds like it's kind of like what you were just talking about in those role plays that you do. You focus on helping people connect the dots between what they want and what it takes to achieve that. And I'd like to take that a step back. Do most people even have a clear view of what they want?
That's a great question. Randy, I love that question. No, they don't, actually. Actually, most people don't know what they want. Most people have these vague ideas, and most people have relinquished their ability to dream. We've given it up because when you're little, they're like, you can be anything. And you're like, Johnny, what do you want to be? Johnny's like, I want to go to the moon. And you're like, Johnny, you can go to the moon. You can be an astronaut. You just don't jump off your bed. You're like, you can do it, right? As long as you behave. And we allow children to dream endlessly. And then as you get older, we start to narrow this thing down. Well, what do you want to be? No, well, you got to do something practical. Well, nobody in our family has ever done that. Wait, hold on. Now, where are you going to go to school? Can we afford to go to a school if you're going to be an astronaut? Can you, really, let's think of something more practical. Well, you really like cutting the grass. Maybe you should just cut grass, And so we start to narrow our ability to dream. We literally kill dreams. And then we give people a pamphlet and say, you're going to college. What major do you want? Of which most people never do their major.
Right.
They just pick something. It's like my first went to college, I went for sociology, I believe. And I love people, and I love the dynamics of how people work in groups. But did I have any concept of what I would do with a sociology degree? No. But I liked it. They were like, what do you like? They're like, okay, and pay us over here. Go down to the registrar. And it was like, that's how it went, right? So I think that most people don't know really because they've stopped dreaming. But even what they've created, even though I don't think they know the truest thing that they want to do, even if they've decided they want to be X, they want to move up in their company, or they want to get married, or they want to, whatever it is, a lot of times people are missing the steps it takes to reach their goals. We have goals. Everybody's been taught to have goals, but a lot of people don't understand what it takes, how you break a long-term goal down into short-term goals, down into monthly, weekly, daily tasks that actually connect the dots between what you want and what it takes to get it.
So let me ask you that. Is there a practice or something, if you were working with maybe it's a group, but maybe it's an individual that you're coaching, like what's the first step? Is it writing down what your goals are? And then I would come back to this, and I think this is such a scratch my own itch question because I've spent so much time trying to live an intentional life, but like that idea of knowing that that's a true goal. Because, like what you mentioned about going to college and, picking our majors at that age, I can tell you what thought my goals were at 25 and what I thought they were at 35 were completely different at 45. So like to that person that you're first sitting down with, it's that first day or that group. What's the first step?
It's funny. Today I started a coaching series with a guy. Today was our first day.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just started with a new client today. And he was asking us, well, what do we do? And he wants to scale his business, right? And he's like, I'm trying to be more profitable and scale my business and all these things, right? And I'm like, well, great. Everybody does, right? I'm like, I get it, right? I'm like, cool. I said, but we have to start with the foundation. The foundation is you. Your business is a reflection of you. It is an outward representation of who you are as an entrepreneur or business owner. And even ourselves inside of a business, it is our role becomes a representation of who we are. So if we're disorganized, if we are chaotic or confused. So is our workspace. So is our output. So is our system strategies and structures. They're a reflection of who we are, right? We can only give the world what's inside of us. So what we have to first do is figure out what's inside of you and then really think about what you really want your life to be so that we can fix the things that may need to be adjusted, let's say. So you used a great word that I love, and that's intentions. A lot of people are going through life hoping, wishing, and waiting that something will change, but they don't have enough intentions. Intentions are like tug of war. You know who has intentions? Netflix has intentions. Netflix wants you to stay on their platform all day long. They are built for binging. You don't even see the credits of the movie you're watching before another movie that they have figured out you'd like based on everything else you watched is about to pop up and try to pull you in before you can even go to the restroom. Right?
It'll start for you in 5 seconds if you don't push back or something,
Absolutely.
right? Like, so,
Absolutely.
Yep.
Social media does a great job. Everybody's social media feed is different because they're giving you more of what you want. And their only goal is to keep you in their ecosystem, keep you in their environment. Because if you're driving down our streets, we can put our billboards in front of you and our advertisers can benefit and they will then put more things on there. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way it is. So what we need in order to create the lives we want is we need greater intentions than these other things. If social media's intentions are greater than yours, you're going to lose a lot of time and effort and energy on social media. If Netflix has better intentions than you, stronger intentions than you, you're going to use a lot of time, energy, and effort on Netflix. And you're going to sit up every day and be like, how did I not get that done? Every week, how did I not get my weekly task done? Every month, that month went so fast. The month does not go faster for one person to the next, right? It's like, it didn't go faster. You just didn't take control of your time. You lost time instead of investing time. When we spend time, we should look at it as an investment. Did you invest your time or did you just lose time like you lost money? So I hope I answered your question. And if you have a follow-up, please ask. I'm like you, Randy. I get excited. Okay.
I love it. This is just audio, but I'm just smiling on the other side of this, thing. So these are my favorite episodes when I just sit and smile and nod my head. So there's something it's kind of more of a circling back to something you were talking about earlier, but I made a note about it. And it's that idea of, it's kind of a cross between the question that I had and the question that, so I'm still trying to work this out, but that idea of like when you're a leader and you're dealing with a difficult problem. And I think you kind of use the example of maybe I wouldn't even say a difficult employee, but an employee who you're just ready to fire. It had me thinking about this idea that like as a leader, we all have to make difficult decisions over time, but sometimes to get through these or to get things done, well, we always know it's easier to bring the team along in the solution than it is to just do it on your own. So do you have any hacks for the leader that I guess is having trouble getting buy-in from like the team, or with credit unions, a lot of CEOs listen to this, their board of directors? Anything that you could throw out there for them in that?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things I teach on, speak on, talk about everywhere I go is emotional intelligence. And 4 main pillars that I focus on with emotional intelligence. Some people throw in 5, but I like the 4 main pillars: 2 internal factors and 2 external factors. The 2 internal factors are self-awareness and self-control. It starts with being aware of yourself, because the next 2 components are empathy and social skills. And so if I don't have social skills or people skills, or I don't have empathy, a lot of times that comes from a lack of self-awareness. How can I be aware of you? I can't have empathy for people. Empathy is understanding how people feel. Well, if I don't even understand how I feel and I'm not aware of myself, I have an inability to understand them. And so a lot of times what happens, we're not aware that we're not aware. That's literally what's happening. You are unaware that you're unaware. You don't know. You've been in the water so long, you don't even know the water. People say, is water wet? I'm like, you're in the water so long, you don't even know you're in the water anymore. You're a big fish and you're swimming around, and you don't realize for your employees or the people coming in or whatever it may be, that they're not as accustomed to this water as you are. But you're talking to them like they feel the same way, like they have the same drivers, like they've had the same career, like they make the same money, like whatever it is. And you're like, you should be all in too. And they're like, this is not my life. This is my job. This may be your life, but this is just my job. Well, how do I get buy-in? How do I get people to invest? Well, I get people to invest in us because we invest in them. And that's not always money. Most people say it's always money. It is not money. There's a lot of very wealthy people who are unhappy, and there's a lot of people who don't have a lot that are very happy and very satisfied with their careers. So emotional intelligence, again, helps us as leaders. And I was a leader in business for many years, and I was a vice president of employee engagement in the healthcare service field not long ago. And my whole job was to go around to 30 plus facilities from Northeast Ohio down into Kentucky and get a feel for how the people were feeling and help the administration understand what it took to connect with them. We have to stop expecting leaders have to stop thinking they're leading from the top, and they have to realize it's their job to hold the team up from the bottom. They're the cheerleader that's pushing the person up, not the person being held up. So when you switch your mindset and realize I'm the one pushing the team up, I'm the strong one, so I'm the one doing the pushing instead of I'm trying to pull everybody up to my level. So if you push them up instead of trying to pull them up, it's a lot less pressure on your back.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead here because I think this ties into it so much. What you just said about being a leader and what it means to be a leader, what do you think makes a good leader? Like if we're talking about a good CEO or a good leader in general, because for many people, it's not a natural tendency, right? Like to be able to be a great leader. And I'll add on to that question. Do you think it's changed, at least what the perception is to be a good leader over time?
100% I believe it's changed. 100%. Because what's changed is people's tolerance for any type of leadership. So once upon a time, we had, people were told, you give me 30, 35 years of your life and I'll pay for the next 30, 35 years of your life, right? Or if you're going to live that long, right? So people give up their adult life for a pension, to be taken care of, all of these things. Well, once some of those things started to erode, and you start having option 401ks, things that can go with you wherever you go, and the company's not really vested or fully invested in you in that way, well, people have options. So they're like, I don't have to stay here and deal with this boss that's horrible because if I leave, I don't lose all these years of what I was building up. I don't have to lose that. So that
you can take your talents to South Beach.
You can take your talents to South Beach. I'm Northeast Ohio. LeBron broke our heart, but he had every right to do it, right? It's a fair labor market. This is our system in the United States. So I feel like leadership, the need to lead appropriately has, maybe it was always this way, but we were more tolerant of tyrants. And let's say that we would allow people to do anything once upon a time because you didn't know there were other options. Also, social media, just like social media has led to huge change across the world. We hear countries where women couldn't drive until social media, and they realized every woman around the world was driving, and they fought for it because they said, wait a minute, this is not normal. We thought it was okay. It's not okay. So the same thing is happening in business. Number one, people can look up a job and apply for a job while they're smiling in their bosses. They could be in a meeting and they could do it from their phone. They can see all the opportunities out there. They could be getting emails and text messages all day about all the opportunities that are out there for them. So as leaders, we really have to be about the people. A good leader has a great balance of system, structure, and order and people skills. Like you have to know how to engage that emotional intelligence. You have to know how to engage people from all walks of life. And then you need the system, structures, and order and vision to lead them towards something. People leave because of lack of vision. They disappear because they're like, I don't even know where we're going here. Is this Groundhog Day? Is this just another day of transactions? Or are we making a difference in our community? And that's something I love about credit unions is it's relational and interactional rather than transactional. And I really love that.
People over profits, right? There's a question that I added to the podcast this year, and I'd love to ask it to you. And it's one that I heard on, quite honestly, another podcast. And it was that idea of like, what's that? And it's one that I send out in advance. The idea of like, what's that greatest investment that you made in your career? And I've given the example, and the person on the podcast gave this example that Warren Buffett, multi-billionaire, right, said it was Dale Carnegie speaking courses. What's that for Lucas?
For me, actually, I would say, now I, got my degree from university. I've read tons of books. I've all the podcasts and all this stuff. But the greatest investment I made was over the last year and a half. I started taking some classes through an online university called Epitomize University through a company called Success Epitomized that I now partner with to do some of the work that I'm doing. To do all the work that I'm doing really comes under this umbrella of Success Epitomized under Dr. Anthony Roadman and much of his teaching. and this community of people who are dynamic thought leaders who are bringing their talents and skills together to serve the community like a credit union.
Yeah.
And we literally talk about it. Like, we're not just here to teach and train and coach and do these things. We're here to maintain as independent business owners myself. I don't have to relinquish what I'm doing to go work with them, but it provides a support system. And so learning and success epitomize many of the system structures and orders that I now use. Things I use in life coaching, business coaching, financial literacy coaching. All of these different things has literally changed my life. It's changed my family's life. It gave me the things I was missing. I always said, I have all these ideas. I have all these systems that I use when I work with people, but there has to be something more measurable, more solid, more consistent. There has to be something that lines up with how the world works, and how it's supposed to work. And I found that it at Success Epitomized, which anybody can look up, great stuff there. And it literally was life-changing. And I will tell that all of my life, I would say. I can't imagine that I will ever find anything like what I found there. And I invested 1 year into this online school, and I learned how to transform my mind and understand how to just get my thoughts and things together, as well as my emotions together, as well as my dreaming ability together, transform my schedule to get my schedule together, how to transform an entire industry. How do you go into any industry and make an impact? How to stay motivated? Just so many things that I learned that literally changed my life through Success Epitomized.
We will link to that in the show notes as well. And obviously people can get a hold of you there. So
awesome.
Another question that I had, and again, I think it goes back to your experience when you're coaching and stuff like that, is like, how do you give feedback? Any leader has been disappointed. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody on their team's let them down. I ask other CEOs this, and I'm like, you don't have to mention names, but how do you give that feedback, and how do you coach leaders to give quality feedback? I'll just say, right?
I love that. And that first consulting job I talked to you about, as we did those role plays and we put those leaders through simulations, the biggest gift we gave them was the feedback, the following day after they went through this whole day of difficult things that they were thrown at them. And I actually just did a delivery with this company, SciTrain, that puts these simulations on just a month or so ago. I'm doing some work with them still. And feedback is something that, number one, you have to go into it with intention, right? You have to know where you want them to go. So I want you to understand why these behaviors meet the mark and why these miss the mark. But what is the mark? And a lot of times what companies are missing are what we call competencies or behavior markers. We need a mark to measure by. A lot of companies are like, well, our mission is this. And it's like a broad mission. And they're like, well, that doesn't fit our mission. And to the person, they're like, well, I'm not sure that it doesn't. What do you mean? Like, what are the steps toward fulfilling that mission? So I think when it comes to feedback, you have to tie it directly to the mission, purpose, vision, as well as competencies and behavior markers, behaviors that you told your team, these are the behaviors. I played football growing up, and I was a lineman, and they told us when we were on a counter play, the running back is going to fake to the left, and go right. So linemen, you have to step left first, even though you're not going left, and that's going to kind of put you at a disadvantage, and then go right. They said because the linebacker on the other side is reading your steps. So if you go right already, they're going to beat the running back to the hole, and we're going to have no chance. So the behavior I need from you, even though it doesn't make sense to you today, is step left first, then step right. And every time on tape, we better step left and then step right. Those were the behaviors of success. So when you give feedback, always tie it to the behaviors of success, not to this is how I feel. People don't want to hear how you feel. Feelings are too fickle to tie my evaluation to how you feel today. That's not fair. Okay.
That is a great point. The I feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is, it kind of ties in, I think we're still leading along that same path, but it's a question that has come up often over the past 4 years of the podcast is, I think the question originally came from that idea of navigating a difficult board member. But I would even say, and I've kind of switched the question up a little bit because I think it's what it is, but I don't think most people have bad intentions. But if you have that board member or you have that employee who thinks their way is always the right way, any hacks on how to, navigate through that without ruining the relationship, I guess?
Well, I think One, it always starts with, it's like seek to understand, then to be understood, right? I think at the core, a lot of times we have to understand, a lot of times it's us too. We want them to think the way I want them to think. I need you to think the way I think. And they're thinking the same thing. But I think I'm being nice about you coming over to my side. So again, it's tug of war. I want you to lose the tug of war, but I'm going to smile as we do it, right? And I want you to smile as you come over here, even though you didn't want to come over here. I need to know what drives you. We have to stop assuming that everybody is driven by the same thing. What drives you? What matters to you? What do you care about? And I don't want to sit down with them in the moment when I want them to make a decision and say, well, what would get this deal done? You know, what drives you? What do you care about? No, I need to have learned that over time through building the relationship, through reaching out on days when it didn't even matter, talking to them at times when I had to invest time that I could have been investing elsewhere because I knew the day would come. I assume the day will come with everybody who I have close relationships with or I work with, that I will need to cash in on the relational equity that we have built and make a withdrawal from our relational bank account and ask for something that maybe isn't your favorite thing or ask you to vote or go this way or that way. But I've been investing so much until I'm pulling from an overflow. I'm not even pulling from your main account. It's like, you know how I care. You know how I've invested. You know how I did things to help you out. Now, today I'm asking this of you. So I would just say, slow down. We have to let the process play out. Sometimes we're trying to rush the thing. Slow down, build the relationships, be thoughtful, invest time. I always tell people, build the bridge before you need it. Build the bridge before it's too late when you need a bridge out of town to build the bridge. Learn to swim before you're drowning. So many people, it's too late now. I'm drowning out here. I don't know what to do. And now I want a swim lesson. No, be proactive with the thought that one day I may need them. I can only get out what I've put in. So let me every day make sure I'm making the investments so that at the time when I may need a withdrawal, there's enough in the account for that to happen easily.
Okay, before I go too long, there's a question that I really want to make sure that I have space to ask you. And I'm not saying we're done yet, but I know I was just looking through my notes, and this one is because of the fact that you're not only a trainer, you're a coach business-wise, but you're also a life coach. So, many leaders tend to put a lot. You even mentioned earlier about the difference between maybe the CEO, it might be their life, right? Leading this credit union. To the employee, it may just be a job. Often that goes to the detriment of personal relationships. Any hacks for the leader out there, and I don't care how long somebody's been a CEO, I think our ears are always open to how we can do the home life better as well. But that balance side, you work with a lot of, I'm sure, A-type personalities who are very successful.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the spouse and kids might suffer. So what's a hack that you have for all of us?
The first thing I say to people is you have to stop giving your job the best of you and giving your family the rest of you. First and foremost, stop giving your job, your career, the best of you and giving your family the rest of you. Because most of us say, I do this to provide for them. Well, what are you providing? You're providing, say, a house, but not a home, a shelter, but no safety, right? It's like, if the ring is the thing that's keeping the house safe and the floodlights and the alarm and the dog is what's keeping the house safe because dad's never home, say, or mom's never home or whatever it is, we're missing the point. So for some reason, we think we're going to go have successful careers and have wonderful families, and that's the American dream. But half of the dream is a nightmare. The home life is often left neglected, and we're asking our children and our wives and our husbands and our family and our friends to forgive us because you understand I have to do this so we can live this life. Is that really true? Do I really have to give up all of my time with you? So now I'm investing everything into this business and nothing into you. Then what happens a lot of times, our children are misbehaving, our relationships are suffering, things are falling apart at home, and we're saying, I just wish they'd understand I have to do this. No, you don't have to do this. What you need to do is you need to multiply yourself. And people always say, I wish I had more than one me. If you're a leader and you don't have more than one you, you're not doing a great job as a leader. You should be able to multiply yourself. You should be able to, the greatest sign of your leadership is your ability to not be there and see things still be successful. If you have to be there, people get lost in their ego. They're like, well, they can't do it without me. Well, that is not a badge of honor. If they can't do it without you, that would be like your children forever. You're like, they can't drive without me. They can't cook without me. They can't do laundry without me. They can't clean their room without me. Nobody would give you a badge of honor if your children couldn't walk because you carry them. Same thing's true in business. Stop carrying all the kids. Teach them to walk. Empower them. Encourage them. Cheer them on from the sidelines like you did your own children. Give them opportunities to learn. Cross-train them. Bring them into the meetings that you're in. Give them information. Let them be privy to information that really isn't above their pay grade. Let them learn to get there. How will they ever get there if you don't give them a chance to get there? So to me, it's training, delegation, it's putting first things first, it's majoring on the majors, and again, stop giving our jobs and our careers the best of us and our families the rest of us. They do not deserve the leftovers.
I love that. That's fantastic. I have one more question on we'll call it the business side of things, and then we'll have a little bit of fun to wrap up the show with some rapid fire questions. But I'm so intrigued by what work, and I'm doing air quotes, looks like going forward. And I'll give you a little bit background. I know you're a credit union member, but in our industry for years, people said remote work was not an option because of security issues and all kinds of things, right? Because you couldn't bank from home. But we saw over the past 2 years that it sure was an option, and some things were done better. So, this is kind of taking that step back. If somebody is just getting into, maybe that's senior in college right now, or if we're looking out 10 years from now, what does work look like?
I think work looks a lot more entrepreneurial. I think work looks more like, they talk about the gig economy, where people are doing smaller things. I think more people are going to be like professional athletes. They're going to have contracts, right? Rather than you're here and that's it. And that's because more and more, again, the ties to the company are looser and looser. The pensions and the plans and all the things that were once in. Well, those things are getting lighter and lighter, and they're getting more and more expensive. So the companies are also starting to let go of some of those total benefits. And they're like, well, we used to do this, but we can't give you a gym membership anymore. So sooner or later, individuals are going to start saying, wait a minute, well, why do I have to only do this for them all day, every day, and give my life to them? And there's going to be a lot of ability for people to do flexible work. And at the end of the day, the companies are going to need people who can just do the work. And because of competition, companies are getting more flexible. Companies that said we would never do remote work are now saying, well, remote workers are better than no workers, so let's figure out how to make it work. I'd rather pay for more, web security than to not have anybody here and not be able to serve our community. So I think that the worker is in the power position. They're going to continue to go and continue to be in the power position. I think because of social media and the internet and the world becoming so small and the proliferation of information, that information is so readily available, that we're going to see there's just a shift in a power dynamic. And I don't think it's bad. I think it's going to force businesses and business leaders to really step up their game. They're really going to have to show that they care. They're going to have to be innovative and thoughtful. And the businesses that do that will win. It's the Netflix versus Blockbuster. If you have to stay in the store and you're unwilling to change because you get so much revenue off of late physical video fees, and that's your model, and you can't see your way out of that box, you will not exist. Who would have thought a Blockbuster would be gone? A Sears would be gone. Toys R Us, some of these huge companies that you're like, there's no way they could ever go out of business. Who could compete? And then these quick, agile businesses came along and they changed everything, and people can feel how they want about them. But if the end user is happy, isn't that what it's all? At the end of the day, we can say, I don't like the change, but change is inevitable. So you either get ahead of the change and make the change and be the change, or you get swept away in the current of change. So I think the future of work is much more flexible, and it's going to be great. I think it's really going to be good for everybody.
I will link to this in the show notes, but I'm actually recording this from down in Mexico. And on my flight down, I listened to a Tim Ferriss show podcast that he had Mark Zuckerberg on just recently. And it wasn't about Meta or Facebook or what that looks like, but their conversation around VR and augmented reality and that the gig economy and what that looks like. And, Zuckerberg was talking 20 years from now, and just how the opportunities that are going to be there, he believes, for everyone to work in what they care about more. Like the technology, it was a fascinating conversation. And I don't even know how I stumbled across it, but I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. But anyway, so
I love it.
I'd like to let's have a little bit of fun here. We're going to wrap this up. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I knew coming into this time was going to be the issue, and I could talk to you for hours. Good thing we have Mini-Con coming up.
Yes,
we'll get to do it again then. So what's the best piece of advice that anybody's ever given you? And who gave it to you?
I think the best piece of advice, I mentioned Dr. Anthony Robbins earlier, who's the founder of Success Epitomized. He said, success is predictable if you have the right keys. Success is predictable. And I thought, I don't think I've ever been told that or taught that. You know, it's always like you're just trying things and trying things and trying things and hoping to find success. And everybody's like, finding success is like finding the fountain of youth. It's like, it doesn't even exist, you know, or do people just stumble upon success? But he said, success is predictable if you have the right keys. So for me, life is about continuing to build my key ring of information that is allowing me to unlock the doors of what I want to unlock in life, so that personally and professionally, I can live the life of my dreams, that I don't have to just be a victim of my circumstance, or I've been doing this so long, how could I do anything else, or whatever it may be. I really want to be able to unlock the doors that I choose to unlock and actually live, like you said, Mark Zuckerberg and they were talking about, and actually do the things I care about and things I enjoy, which are far more valuable than money. And then the money will come as well.
That's exactly it. What's the greatest album of all time? And I love asking this question because I feel like it's how I find out how old people are.
That's hilarious. I would have to say the greatest album of all time is Michael Jackson's Thriller.
It's a popular choice.
It's just, I mean, of course, right? I mean, it is popular for so many reasons, but song after song after song, it's just amazing. So yes, I've always said it. I still believe it. I've tested my theory, and I'd still have to go with Thriller, greatest album of all time.
I'm predicting we're within a general range of the same age also. Yes. So when you hear the word success, who is the first person that comes to mind and why?
I would say my wife, Corrine.
I love this.
She is a perfect balance of like discipline and openness, right? Like she's loving and kind, and yet she's disciplined. So she'll push you to be more structured, but she'll love you through the process. She also, for herself in her own life, like whatever dreams or goals or things that she wants to do, she just does it because she's willing to connect those dots and put the discipline together to make it happen. So my wife, Corrine, is beautiful and powerful and amazing. And I realized that she may not be physically stronger than me, but she is more powerful. She is powerful. And that's okay, right? And I think we often push women. I think women in general are more powerful, honestly. But
I was going to say, I have a partner who I would say the exact same thing that you just said. So it's
I think it's true. And I think often
to use the football analogy, I feel lucky, and we all know I outkicked my coverage. So it's
right. You're like, how did this happen? Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I think that's another reason why women deserve opportunities at all levels in business, and we need to stop looking at gender as though it's some determining factor or suggesting they're more emotional. I found a lot of women to be more emotionally intelligent. Men are often more emotionally suppressive because they've been raised that way, maybe culturally, like get up and walk it off, be a big boy. First is be a big boy, then it's be a man. So we're always pushing men to suppress their emotions to keep moving. Sometimes the reason we're unable to connect with that board member or connect with our team is because, again, we don't have the emotional intelligence because we weren't allowed to. We didn't get a chance to. But the women oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes were. And so now they know how to connect with different people, just like they connect with their different children, even though the children are all different. And the dad is kind of like, that one likes me, I like that one. And that's my buddy or that's my girl. The rest of them, I like them, but they don't like me that much. So that's my and the mom will connect with all of the children, much like they can connect with everybody in the business. So my wife, Corrine, is the answer to that question.
I absolutely love that. I will say 130 some episodes in, the spouse doesn't get enough of that. Mom gets it often, but it's the spouse. I love that answer. So anyways, there you go, my friend. I thank you so much, Lucas, for being on the show. The last question I have of you is, any final thoughts? I'm so excited people get to hear more from you on Mini-Con. And beyond the final thoughts, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you that we can link in the show notes if they have more questions?
Absolutely. People can look me up at successepitomized.com. Lucas Tindell. They can find me there. Also, they can find me if you just look up lucastindell.com. Actually, lucastindell.com will also bring you to me. And I'm also on social media. LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn. Lucas Tindell on LinkedIn.
That's a good place for us to link. That's where most of our listeners are as well. So, well, thank you again, my friend. This was amazing. We will link to everything that we talked about today in the show notes. And like I said, I cannot wait for the next Mini-Con and to hear what you have to say when I'm not bouncing all over the place.
I can't wait. May 25th, Wednesday, May 25th, 1 p.m. I'll be the keynote speaker for Mini-Con. I hope everybody comes.
We do too, and it's going to be fantastic. A few things very quickly before we go. Make sure to check out Allied Solutions in the show notes as well. I am grateful for their support on the podcast. They're allowing me to have this much fun doing what I do. So please also subscribe to the CUInsight Experience on your favorite podcast players. We're on them all. And while you're there, if you think we deserve it, a 5-star review would be appreciated. If you don't think we're worth it, forget I asked. It does help with the visibility of the show. And last, we have the CUInsight Experience book list, and we will be linking to Lucas's books as well on there. We didn't even get a chance to talk about them, but I'll make sure to add those in the notes. Your next read can be coming at you live or right straight from Amazon. And last, but certainly not least, I want to thank all of you for listening. Y'all rock. I appreciate the kind words that come in about this show. I can't wait to see you all soon in person again. So be well, friends, and thank you again, Lucas.
Thank you so much, Randy. It was a pleasure.